Hi, it's Charlie Minato from halfwheel.com, and over my last few ashtray reviews, I have mentioned what I believe to be my ideal ashtray. It would be a modern-looking ashtray designed for a single cigar that has a stirrup for the cigar to rest in. In short, I was probably looking for this ashtray, which is the VAL Cigar Ashtray from Nobu Inoue. So the VAL Cigar Ashtray is neither new nor something that I was unfamiliar with. I've known about this ashtray for a few years, but I've held off on purchasing it for a couple of reasons. First, the only place I know where to get it is the Nobu Inoue Design Store, which is based in Japan, meaning that I can't go to my local cigar shop and check out this admittedly somewhat interesting looking ashtray. And number two is the price. It typically has a retail price of 38,500 yen, which as of November 2023 is around $255. Over the summer, the Nobu Inoue Design Store ran a sale. They put the ashtray 20% off. I figured it was as good of a time as any to be spending $200+ on a cigar ashtray. So I went ahead and purchased it. The price was $222 or equivalent to $222 as of July 2023. I then paid another $29 to have it shipped here to Texas. So the grand total was $251 for this ashtray. Now, as far as the ashtray itself, it is a very interesting looking design considering how simple it is. It is made using Nambu Teki, which is a Japanese form of ironware that dates back to the mid-17th century. So you obviously aren't here to sort of inspect it up closely, but if you're wondering, this very much feels like cast iron, which makes a lot of sense. It is got the in particular, I would say the outside, really everything other than the lip around the bowl, which is smooth. Everything else has the smooth but sort of still textured feel to it that you would get in a well-seasoned cast iron pan. Now, as you can see, the ashtray comes apart. It is an interesting little party trick, something I didn't know when purchasing it. So this is the stirrup, and for those that are confused about how this works, you're going to take the cigar, rest it on the stirrup. You want to have the end with the ash hanging over the bowl, and then you're going to want to put the other end of the cigar, the side that you would smoke out of, you're going to want that hanging off the ashtray, so something like this. Now, the stirrup can be removed. That's not terribly surprising. A lot of times the stirrups can be removed, and it's a nice feature. It's got a magnet on the back, and it is off-center, which is an interesting thing, but more on that in a second. And then this is the oval-shaped bowl, and it's a bowl. It's got a magnet on the bottom of it, right in the center. So this is centered, the stirrup is off-center, and then this is the base, which is also oval-shaped. It has this concave feature for the bowl to sit inside of. It appears to have a magnet, given that little dimple or pocket, whatever you want to call that, at the bottom of it. And so it sits flat, and then you take the bowl, you place the bowl on top of it, and then the stirrup goes somewhere on the rim of the bowl. Now, you don't have to put it back in sort of the way it comes. Because of the magnets, you can reposition this sort of however you'd like, and that also extends to the bowl itself. You could have a situation where I think the ideal format is to have the bowl like this, sort of dead center, but you could move it so that the cigar is pointed upwards if you really wanted to. You could also move it the other way where the cigar would be pointed downwards. I don't know how much of a use case there would be for doing this, other than maybe if you were outside and trying to sort of combat the wind and keep the ash inside of the bowl. What all of that does mean, though, is that telling you the dimensions are a bit tough because it's quite flexible. So in this position right here, the end-to-end dimensions are about 7.8 inches from here to here. But because of that off-center magnet in the stirrup, I can turn the stirrup around like this, and all of a sudden, it is now 8.5 inches from here to here. It is about 3.25 inches from here to here, 2.75 inches in height, so that would be from the surface to the top here. And it is pretty hefty. It feels substantial. It weighs 700 grams, which is a little bit more than 1.5 pounds. So I'm going to move on to the pros and the cons, and I'm going to start off with the pros first. Number one on the good list is that it works, and it probably should. It's an ashtray. But what I mean by that is that the stirrup works quite well. And the reason why I like having a stirrup is that I feel like it creates less mess. So let's pretend that this Angel Cuesta is a lit cigar, and that the red footband here is actually ash and not a piece of paper that's still attached to the cigar that isn't lit yet. Anyways, the reason why I like having the stirrup is that I can place the ash over the bowl of the ashtray and having it not touch anything other than the cigar, which means that it's not going to be disturbed as much. There are ashtrays where the ash is going to constantly be coming in contact with something, which I feel like creates more mess. That could be sort of dislodging the big chunks of ash and creating accidental ash drops that go on the table or in my lap. Or it could just be flakes of ash coming off as they sort of get chipped away by touching things. But this design means that the ash isn't going to touch anything. It's just going to hang over, touch the end of the cigar, and it'll hopefully eventually fall off when I want it to. Or if it accidentally does fall off just sort of randomly, it will be over the ashtray and go inside of the bowl. Number 2 is that, like Men's Warehouse, I really do like the way that this looks. I have said before that I like modern looking cigar accessories, and this certainly checks that box. It is very modern looking. It is, monotone, but I don't mind it. And I do think that having this smooth texture here helps to create a little bit of contrast. It gives it more depth. It is also a design that I can tell has been well thought out. It is not amateur hour. This does not look like the first attempt, both aesthetically as also like functionally. Obviously, the magnets are a big advantage and a smart thing to use for many cigar accessories, and they work well here. But also something as simple as, like, let's say you wanted to grab this ashtray. There are a couple ways to do it, to just pick it up. You could just pick up the whole thing like this, which is the most stable feeling way to do it. But if there's ash inside here, maybe you don't want to necessarily touch it. But you also can just pick it up from the end, and the bottom piece will stay on because of the magnets. Now, I will say that if you provide enough disturbance, it will eventually, the base will come dislodged. Like that. But for the most part, I didn't have any issues. In fact, I only think that it came off one time accidentally, and I was pleasantly surprised to pick up the base and not find any, chips in the sort of iron or any dents or anything like that. It looked pretty fine despite falling on the ground. Number 3 is sort of related to that, which is that this is a substantial ashtray that, like a cast iron pan, is probably going to outlive me. It's very difficult for me to imagine how this thing could possibly get damaged, and certainly damaged to the point where it wouldn't be functional anymore. It's seems like it's going to last for a really long time. The only place that I can tell that doesn't look brand new is there's some discoloration in the base, right where the magnet would be rubbing up against it. And other than that, and I guess there's some discoloration around the edges here as well. But other than the place where the two pieces are coming in constant contact with one another and rubbing up against them, the ashtray basically looks brand new. And even beyond that, I don't think that it's going to scrape itself to death here. Now, normally I would cap this at 3 positive things and 3 negative things, but I always mention cleaning as part of these ashtray reviews, and so I'm going to add a 4th thing to the good. It is pretty easy to clean. I've just been using basic cleaning products. I haven't used any special cast iron techniques to clean this thing. I have not put it in the dishwasher. I don't know if I necessarily would. I don't put cast iron pans in the dishwasher, but I imagine it would survive. Maybe it discolors it a little bit. That said, I haven't had a need to. It's extremely easy to clean. I was a bit concerned about the all-black color and how gray ash would show against it. Under normal lights, it cleans up well enough that I can't see any ash. Under these high-powered lights, I can see tiny little specks. There's like a piece of ash over there, and then there's another one kind of right there. But normally, it cleans up just fine using normal cleaning products. And obviously, the ability to take it apart means that it's very easy to clean and get kind of anywhere within the ashtray that you would want to clean. Now, as far as the cons are concerned, I got 2 of them. They're pretty predictable. The first is probably the one you're thinking of, which is that this is $250-ish. That is the price of a box of cigars for some people, or like half of a Cohiba these days. But regardless, it's not cheap. It is also not a cheap product. It feels nice, it looks nice, etc. But it's true. There are $25 ashtrays or free ashtrays that you get at cigar events here in the US that could do the job almost as well as this ashtray. I don't think it's a life-changing product, but it is certainly a nice luxury, and I do feel like I got what I paid for it. Now, number 2 is perhaps the larger issue for the people that are actually interested in purchasing this ashtray, which is that, as far as I know, there's only one store that sells the ashtray, and that can cause some problems. For example, as of early November 2023, that one store is sold out of the ashtray, meaning that there doesn't appear to be a place to buy it. And the fact that it's an online store in Japan also means that if you wanted to go see this ashtray in person, I don't know if you can. Maybe you can fly to Japan, but obviously there's not, for Americans or Europeans, a sort of practical way to see this thing before purchasing it. So speaking of purchasing this ashtray, it is time for the part of the review where I ask myself, hypothetically at least, would I recommend that you buy the VAL Cigar Ashtray? And the answer is yes. This is the ashtray that I will be using going forward, at least until my next ashtray review. But I would suspect that once that is completed, I will probably return to the VAL Cigar Ashtray. It is everything that I've been asking for in a cigar ashtray. It's a single cigar ashtray. It's got a stirrup. It's got modern design. It's substantial looking, but not too heavy. It's not too large. It's easy to clean, etc., etc., etc. Turns out it's been staring at me all these years, and I'm so glad that I purchased it. It is not life-changing, but it certainly, it's a better ashtray to use than any other ashtray I've used before it. So I'm a big fan of the VAL Cigar Ashtray. Hopefully it comes back in stock. In the meantime, you can check out halfwheel.com for more reviews of ashtrays, as well as other cigar accessories like lighters, cutters, humidors, humidification products, smoke eaters. I don't know. We've done some other stuff as well. You can also check out halfwheel.com for reviews of cigars themselves, as well as the most comprehensive coverage of the cigar industry on a daily basis.